We're going to pick the 16 running backs that we would want for 2021. Who do you want? You're starting with Team X. Who's your guy? Ellis Williams is going first, then Scott Patsko, then me, then Mary Kay Cabot.
I try to come at this like a roster builder, actual applicable football on a football field. And to me, there's really only one guy. You can make a case for another guy who has a similar skill set, but to me, there's only one guy who stands out above all the rest as just a pure mismatch creator, a guy who supersedes his position. He's a weapon. He's not a running back. Anyone who listened to the quarterback draft knows where I'm going with this. It's Saints playmaker, Alvin Kamara. He's just different.
Well, for number 2, I'm going to go with my number 1 guy who goes against everything I just said about versatility and, wanting mismatches. I had Derrick Henry, number 1, for consistency, for durability. He's had 2 straight seasons of over 300 carries. Maybe he falls apart in 2021, but he's been good for a good amount of years now.
Where does Nick Chubb fit? Nick Chubb is first in next gen stats in Scott, you got to help me here. RYOE/ATT. That's rush yards over expected per attempt. That's important, right? He's first in Football Outsiders. No, he's second in DVOA, which is sort of like per play. And the guy who's first is J.K. Dobbins, who wasn't the main guy in Baltimore. So that's some of these running back numbers, you can find guys in weird spots on statistical lists because it's like, well, he was like their third running back, right? Nick Chubb per touch, he only averaged 18.2 touches per game last year. I took out the Dallas game and didn't include that. So that's the 11 full games he played. It was 18.2 per touch. He is helped by the complement of Kareem Hunt. We all know that. There are some things, maybe not the greatest short yardage guy in the world. He's special. And I knew it. I wrote a whole thing this week about how he's special. You guys all know it. Everybody listening to this knows it. And then I researched this stuff for this, Mary Kay, and I realized he's more special than I even realized. That every time he touches the ball, he's a threat. It's perfect symbiosis for this offense and the player. But I think you put this guy a lot of places. If you want to call me nuts for putting him ahead of Derrick Henry, I can explain that a little bit more. But I think he is absolutely top 3. I put him second. Mary Kay, where'd you have Nick Chubb?
I actually had him 4th. So soon you will find out why. But I did have him 4th, and I agree. I mean, he's special. He's one of the best runners of the football that I have seen. And if you guys have pointed out in some of the stories that you've done this week, he does everything exceptionally well. And Scott, you had the statistical look at that, how early in the week, how he does most things better than almost anybody in the league. He almost led the NFL in rushing last year. This year, he had over 1,000 despite missing 4 games. I mean, think about that. He would have, really been up there in the 1400s. 12 TDs. Again, I'm big on getting into the end zone. Short yardage is the only place where he really, doesn't excel necessarily. And then the other thing is he does need to pick it up a little bit in terms of his ability to catch the football. And I do think that and he was even mad at himself for dropping back-to-back passes in the Kansas City game. So that's why I knocked him back to number 4. Just those 2 little areas, not being as much of a dual threat as you would like him to be, and then short yardage.
Yeah, and I think that's smart. I have a feeling who Mary Kay is going to pick, and you can make a strong argument that I'm taking Chubb too high. Ellis, where'd you have Chubb?
I had Chubb 4th as well. And for reasons that Mary Kay laid out, for reasons we've addressed on Gotta Watch the Tape and during Bark Week, it really comes down to production with Nick Chubb. And Browns fans are going to like what I have to say, though it may come off as a backhanded compliment, though it essentially is going to prolong Nick Chubb's career, which we've talked about on here. Chubb only has 14 games out of about the 50 he's played with 20 carries or more.
I had him 5th, which isn't where I originally had him, but I guess I just talked myself down a little bit after I looked more into the guys I have ahead of him. And look, everything I wrote about and everything we talked about, and I got to watch the tape. I mean, that's all true. He's top 5 in explosive runs the last 2 seasons, top 5 in avoided tackles last 3 seasons. Like Derrick Henry is the only guy who is so highly ranked in crucial categories, like things that you measure a running back by. It's him and Nick Chubb, but I put Nick Chubb a little lower, partly because of the fact that, like Ellis said, he is very, like, the passing game isn't as big of a deal with Nick Chubb. There is the boomer bust factor with him that some of the other guys that I have ranked and that we'll be talking about are the same way, but maybe they offer you more in the passing game than Nick Chubb has with the Browns. And short yardage with Nick Chubb, really it's more in the red zone. 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, he's a good option, but in the red zone, it hasn't been that case. And I think that's really a huge gap between him and Derrick Henry. Look, there were 5 guys that I thought set themselves apart. He's clearly in that group, but I still have him at the bottom of it.